Haunted Mansion was directed by Simien, and it's got a star-studded cast. LaKeith, Stanfield, Tiffany, Haddish, Rosario, Dawson, Owen Wilson, and Danny DeVito are in this also. Like, my god, this cast is loaded. And this is the second overall attempt for Disney to use this IP in the live-action movie genre, 20 years after the original Haunted Mansion movie starring Eddie Murphy of all people. And that's a movie I reviewed on the Halloween special a couple years back, so definitely check that review out after this. But this version, the Haunted Mansion is already sold off to a woman and her son. The woman, played by Rosario Dawson, enlists a motley crew of so-called spiritual experts in order to help rid their home of 999 supernatural squatters. This ragtag group includes a psychic/medium played by Tiffany Haddish, a history professor played by Danny DeVito, a very unconventional priest played by Owen Wilson, and a tour guide played by LaKeith Stanfield, who is far and away the heart and soul of this movie. And he's honestly my biggest praise. This is a phenomenal actor, as he's proven time in and time out. And I'm so happy that he is getting the spotlight here in this film. And I'm honestly really stoked that this movie was tackling more mature themes than we're used to in child-friendly scary movies. Because this is dealing with themes of grief, devastation, loss of family members and not coming to grips or being at peace with that loss. This movie is extremely mature, a lot more mature than I was expecting, while not to mention also being really freaking fun. Mad kudos to this version of Haunted Mansion for feeling a lot more like a tribute to the original Disney ride, which I feel like I've said a few times at least on my channel. This, along with Pirates of the Caribbean, that has to be a go-to at the Disney theme parks. Those are the perennial classics that you must ride before you leave. Why? Because both of those rides are just so simple. You just hear the title Haunted Mansion and you're walking up to the ride itself and you know immediately what it's all about. 999 happy haunts are hoping you'll be number 1000, and you've got to make your way out of that Haunted Mansion before the grinning ghosts come to socialize. No explanation or introduction necessary. There are so many more Easter eggs to the actual theme park ride in this movie than there is in the 2003 version. There's a point where Tiffany Haddish, who's pretty funny in the film, is conducting a seance, and it looks like she's thrust out of the room in a chair that looks exactly like a doom buggy that you would ride at the theme park. Of course, you have the room that looks like it's continuously stretching as you walk onto the theme park ride. The whole climax actually takes place in what looks like a magical graveyard that's somehow inside the Haunted Mansion. The production value of this movie and the attention to detail about the source material, mad props to this movie for that, man. And I feel like across the board, this cast fits so much better with a Haunted Mansion IP. Because one big complaint that I had about the original Haunted Mansion movie was the casting of Eddie Murphy. Nothing against him. Nothing against Eddie Murphy at all. I love him. I think he's hilarious. But putting him in a Haunted Mansion movie is like putting Will Ferrell under a Batman cowl. Come to think of it, it's kind of like putting Jared Leto in Joker makeup. Oh, wait. They already did that. Oh boy. Which, speaking of, Jared Leto is in this movie as our villain, the Hatbox Ghost. Again, if you're to think of any villain to put in a Haunted Mansion movie, Mr. Hatbox is probably it. And I'm sure Jared Leto went full method with this performance like he claims he does, which probably means that he subs in for the Hatbox Ghost at the actual Haunted Mansion ride, which will probably lead to people getting offended that they're not looking at the animatronic from the 60s and, you know, Jared Leto instead. Kidding aside, I think he does solid with the material he's given. I think this entire cast fits much better. I was actually super interested in Owen Wilson's character for sure, because Owen Wilson as a priest is dealing with so much anxiety in this situation. You have Danny DeVito as a history professor who is just so enthusiastic about this place. He's been studying it for years, but his health probably is telling him not to go here. And you can't help but feel endeared by what he's doing. Lest I mention Jamie Lee Curtis as Madame Leota. Much better fit than Jennifer Tilly was 20 years ago. Because it actually feels like Jamie Lee Curtis, you look into her eyes as Madame Leota, and you believe every word out of her mouth. Better yet, you take her seriously. And her and Jared Leto are mostly CGI characters, which does sort of get into my issues with Haunted Mansion, because trust me, even though I had fun with this, not a perfect movie by any stretch, not even close. First of all, a lot of this CGI definitely looks unfinished, especially as it goes with the villainous sidekick characters. All 999 grinning ghosts look very fake, and that's one edge that I feel like I can give to the original 2003 film. I appreciated the fact that they were using prosthetic and practical makeup. Because you just look at a lot of the CGI, and unfortunately, it just doesn't look ultra convincing. Speaking of convincing, even though this script is very smart and it deals with so much grief-stricken themes, and it allows LaKeith Stanfield a chance to really shine as an actor, which he absolutely does in this movie, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of things that I feel like hold the emotional gravitas of Haunted Mansion back. Number one, there is so much blatant product placement put into this movie, and granted, it's not as annoying as Shazam 2 was, but my God, it's there. Especially during that aforementioned seance scene. And I was like, why'd you need to put that in the movie? It also feels like the movie cheats a little bit, especially when you look at the scene in the trailer with LaKeith Stanfield and Danny DeVito going to the police station to get a sketch of the Hatbox Ghost. It is well established early on that once you enter the Haunted Mansion, you're just going to be haunted until you actually put your demons to rest. And there's points as you get towards the second half of this movie where they kind of break that rule a little bit, and these people can leave without really ever feeling haunted or in any danger. So there's a few little annoying plot holes like that. But my God, getting back to LaKeith Stanfield's performance, freaking phenomenal like I said. But this movie just makes a couple of ultra baffling editing choices that just made me sit there and be like, I can just appreciate LaKeith Stanfield's performance. Why do you have to cut away to everybody's reaction and they're not really giving me much? Like, just keep the camera on LaKeith Stanfield and just keep it in a long oneer. Missed opportunity there, man. Which brings me to one final thing. All due respect to Justin Simien, again, I applaud his attention to detail on this movie. I appreciate that unlike the original movie from 20 years ago, this actually feels like a proper tribute to the theme park ride. Even though this doesn't really come close to the quality of Curse of the Black Pearl, or heck, even Jungle Cruise from a couple years ago, this is a very fun entry into the theme park ride department of Disney movies. But one thing I figured out just left me wanting so much more from this. At one point during development, Guillermo del Toro was attached as the director. My God, what could have been? If you saw Pinocchio last year, Del Toro could have made this movie so much more gothically scary and so freaking cool. And I feel like Haunted Mansion could have been unbelievably great with him at the helm. But as it is, this is definitely serviceable, a pretty fun movie overall. And I might even go watch it again. I'm gonna give Haunted Mansion a B-. I applaud the attention to detail and the more mature themes than we're used to in Disney movies, as well as a phenomenal performance from a game LaKeith Stanfield. But I think too many bothersome editing choices and writing choices really hold this one back from being an instant classic. Let me know what you think of Haunted Mansion down in the comments section below. Do you prefer this version over the 2003 version? What is your favorite Disney theme park ride? Let me know all that jazz down in the comments. Because I love discussing all things movies and entertainment, all things geeky in the Disney realm. You're going to find topics like that all here on my channel. So do consider becoming a subscriber and tap on that thumbs up button as well. Really helps spread the love and helps continue to grow this awesome community out here. Guys, y'all are the best. Stay tuned for more videos very soon. And with all that being said, back talk, commence.